Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Chairman of Monmouthshire County Council.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this special council meeting. A few points before we start. We are being live streamed today, so we are live to the public. And so I would ask you, when you're making a speech, to address the chair so the camera can see your face, and to turn your microphones off when you finish speaking, because that way we won't have cameras bouncing around. My intention today is to go through the two main items, and I'll describe some of the ways we can handle it as we go through them. So we'll start off the meeting today by saying, going to the agenda, item 1, which is apologies for absence. Do I have apologies for absence? Councillor Taylor?
Councillor Debbie Blakeborough, I'm afraid she's been called away to a family emergency.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Petruni?
Councillors James George and Jessica Crook.
Thank you. Councillor Howarth?
Councillor Down, Councillor Marshall, Councillor Wintle and Councillor Harewood.
Councillor Hackett-Payne? Are we covered now on apologies for absence? We now go on to item 2 on the agenda, to receive declarations of interest. Do I have any declarations of interest? As and when, thank you, councillors, we move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is the report of the Head of Democracy and Regulatory Services, appointment to outside bodies, copy attached. So to start off, I will invite the leader, Councillor Peter Fox, to address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As members will see, that the background of this report emanates from Cabinet last week, following the move to a national model for the EAS, our educational consortia. Out of that model, the shift to that new model, there are some recommendations which need to be put in place, and this report is here today to give the opportunity to appoint some people to the new structure. And the recommendations there, as you will see, are that County Councillor Robert Greenland replaces myself on the EAS board, and that 2 members of the Children and Young People Select Committee are appointed as members of the Audit Committee, which will be scrutinising the work of the EAS going forward. The structure, more information on the new structure is appended in the Cabinet reports which accompany this covering report, Mr. Chairman. However, it may be that the Chief Executive, as the author of the original report, may want to reflect deeper on this, but the recommendations before us are purely to elect the outside body nominations as described in the recommendations 2122.
Thank you for that. Does the Chief Executive want to add anything before we proceed?
Only if members require. I guess you would have all seen the original Cabinet paper. I would like to think that it was reasonably straightforward, and you will understand the reasons that we're looking to make the changes and the enhancements that we are to the governance framework of the Education Achievement Service. But if there are questions of detail, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Chief Executive. We now go to the debate, and I've got Councillor Eason.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just in reference to what I think the protocol for that decision was made. The only area of non-consultation was the Democratic Services Committee, or the Democratic Services Chair. I think that having had that committee in place for the last 2 to 3 years, I think it would have been more appropriate at least that to have gone through that committee before you come to a final decision. The decision may well be what it is. I'm not arguing against that. But the protocol, I think, it should have gone to the Democratic Service Committee for consultation as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Howarth.
Chairman, may I just ask one question of yourselves? With the recommendations there, 2-2, the 2 members of the Children and Young People Select Committee are appointed members of the Audit Committee. We're going to make an appointment today now for the 2, but actually the document did say that actually they didn't need to be from the Children and Young People's Select. If we're going to make representation today from that Select Committee, would it not be within the interest of the Council to make sure that the Select Committee's 2 representatives that they feel comfortable with who can audit? Because it is a skilled profession in carrying out that task, and I believe that that should be the course of what we should make today. But the Council made the decision, but I would have probably liked to have seen there that the Children and Young People Select appoint, not the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Having been away and just come into this, I'm just assuming on 2.2 that any decision that's in the remit of the Children and Young People's Committee will be decided by the Children and Young People's Committee. Am I right in thinking from the discussion I've heard so far that we here today are going to direct the Children and Young People's Committee, who's going to be members actually from here rather than the committee? Have I got that wrong?
I think you've got that right, Councillor. It's the Children and Young People Select Committee would appoint 2 members to the EAS Audit Committee, as I read it. Any other councillors? I think we've finished the debate on that. The leader wants to come back.
Well, just for clarity, Chair, it was made very clear at Cabinet that that the members for this audit committee could be drawn from any member of the council from any committee. However, it was advised, because of the experiences you've been gained within the Children and Young Peoples and their focus in this area, that it would make a lot of sense if the 2 members that sit on this board were drawn from that select committee. It is the role, I believe, of this council to set the outside body names, and we do that usually annually at the annual general meeting. This is obviously a need to revisit that part of the way through the year because of the reasons explained there. So I believe it is a function of this council today to nominate 2 people, either from the Children and Young People's Committee or from the wider membership of the council. And in doing that, I would happily move that it should be the chair and vice chair of Children and Young People's Committee, if they are willing to take this role on, that should sit on that audit committee, and I move that.
I'll allow you to come back, Councillor Harris.
I'd like to second that, as simple as that.
Okay, we have a proposal and we have a seconder. But first of all, we have to go through the recommendations as listed. Yes. So we've got 2.1 recommendations that County Councillor R. Greenland replaces County Councillor P. Fox on the EAS board. Do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Murphy, a seconder. Councillor Brown-Jones. We take the vote then. All those in favour of 2.1, please. Clearly carried. Thank you, councillors. We go on to 2.2. That 2 members of the Children and Young People Select Committee are appointed as members of the Audit Committee or anyone else as per the leader's clarification. All those in favour of the motion as presented?
Sorry, Chairman, I think for clarity, I think I moved that the 2 named, the chair and the vice chair of the Children and Young People's Committee, be appointed today by this council. I second.
So you want to nominate the people today? Okay. So are you all in favour of that? Just so you consensus? Yes, you're all in favour. Okay. In that case, we seek nominations for those 2 people.
Chairman, then, for clarity, I nominate Councillor Penny Jones and Councillor Peter Farley to take those roles on that audit committee.
Do I hear a seconder?
Please second that, Chairman.
Please to second it, thank you. Okay, we now, I ask for any comments on that proposal. Are there any further comments on that proposal? If not, I'll take it to the vote. So all those in favour, so I could ask the 2 recipients, are they happy to take on those roles?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. In that case, we'll vote. All those in favour of those 2 nominated persons? Clearly carried, thank you, and welcome to the EAS Audit Committee on our behalf, councillors. Thank you. We now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 4, a report of the Chief Executive, Reforming Local Government White Paper. Just to give a little bit of background on my behalf, I've been in liaison with the Chief Executive, and we were minded that there should be a transparent and clear debate on the thoughts and processes of councillors, and that is one of the reasons why this has been presented to you here today. Before I ask the Chief Executive to present it, the way I'm going to operate today is we need full open debate, and so I will allow all councillors to contribute to the debate before I take any motions. I will then, after the completion of that first line, allow some councillors to come in a second time if they feel their thoughts have changed in any way because of the debate. And then when I think the debate is finished, I will then call for proposals for a vote. So I now hand over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you would have had to be on a very distant land over the course of the last sort of 5, 6, 7 months to have missed the developing national debate about a post-Williams Commission reform of public services, of which local government reorganisation is but one, but quite a significant recommendation. I don't propose to speak at length about this paper. You'll be pleased to know what I've tried to do is to offer you a neutral position on the issues that I think you need to be informed of as you make a decision about the direction that you would wish your council to take, or certainly the voice that you would want to articulate within the debate that I'm sure will continue over the course of the coming months. You'll be clear that members have an interest in this, clearly, not a prejudicial or personal interest. The public are actually surprisingly interested in this issue in Monmouthshire, as I confirmed by just one tweet earlier this week, and my phone lit up. People actually are interested in what you're debating today. And your officers will be interested in this conversation. For that reason, should you want an officer input to clarify a point today, I would ask that it's focused through me. So the only officer voice that you will hear today, not because I feel particularly megalomania, but I want to make sure that this is your conversation, not an officer conversation. And I guess a result for us is that we need to say nothing at all. So the report is there for you. The recommendation is actually a set of options. I've tried to be inclusive in the options available to you. I don't think they exclude a possibility, but I've been proven wrong previously in this chamber. And I commend the approach that the Chair is recommending, which is to be a little bit relaxed perhaps for the first part of this discussion so that it does feel like a debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. So we now open the debate on the paper itself, and I invite contributions. Do I have a contribution from councillors? Councillor Hackett-Payne.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My point really is to do with the finances, the costings, and I just wonder how any elected member, knowing the budgetary constraints that we're under at the moment, could seriously take this suggestion of merger seriously. When we look at the costs here from the WLGA, that is looking between 100 to 400 million pounds, and Williams himself looked at a figure of 80 to 100 million pounds. So we're looking here at a range from 80 million to 400 million pounds. I think before I could ever make a decision, I'd need a little bit of clarity. There's an awful lot of millions pounds there, and I just find it incredible to the costings don't seem to tie in with what we're being asked to do here.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the the crucial point here with regards to the proposals of the Williams Commission is to do with the current budgetary situation and timing. It isn't just the cost of the implementation, it's the effect on local authorities of the delay, and also the uncertainty with regard to staff as to what their futures are. What we need from a budgetary point of view is clarity now as to what the position is. Waiting until 2018 at the earliest, or 20 or maybe even 21, before we get any particular clarity on this is most unsettling and most unsatisfactory from the point of view of budget planning.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more contributions? I've got Councillor Peter Fox and then Councillor Penny Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and can I thank you for agreeing this special council meeting today, because I think it's absolutely fundamental that we have that debate, and it's important that we have that debate between ourselves, and it's important that our communities can take part in at least watching this debate and having an understanding of this whole emerging situation, which sadly is a huge distraction at a time where we have very little resources, and we are focused in many ways on the budgetary issues facing local government at the moment. And the whole debate around local reorganisation, I don't think is helpful in our journey of trying to manage the very, very difficult times we've had and we are going to be having over many years. However, the debate has to be had. The options that came forward for local government reorganisation, as we know, flowed from the Williams Commission. The Williams Commission had a whole host of things in there. Let's not, let's be clear. There are lots of areas in there and a few recommendations related to local government reorganisation, but they were absolutely massive, and it talked about the merger model, the reduction to 12 authorities, 11, 12 authorities in Wales, a reduction from where we are now. Trouble is, lots of us had some concern about would that debate ever be sophisticated enough? Would it give us enough time to really have a look at what's right for local government in Wales going forward? It had a very short window. The Commission, in fairness, had to work extremely hard in pulling together their views to be able to submit, in a very small window, which I believe didn't give enough time for the deeper analysis of what's right for Wales and local government and what we're going to look like going forward. However, the recommendations stood there and have been now merged into the white paper, which consultation finished on that white paper, local government white paper, at the end of September. And in there we know that the Wales government are supporting the recommendations from the Williams Commission, looking at the mergers which were described in there, and specifically for Monmouthshire, the constant in that was for us to merge with Newport City Council. That debate is now ongoing. There is a lot of discussion around mergers across the whole of Wales. I think our focus obviously needs to be around Monmouthshire and South East Wales, and I'm very clear that the debate needs to be focused around the region of South East Wales. We are seeing Newport City Council have already come out very clearly and said that they don't want to merge with Monmouthshire. We know that Blaen y Gwent and Torfaen are looking to voluntarily merge, because that is an option that is before us today, that actually authorities can voluntarily merge and make progress on that. We know that that model that they're talking about in Blaen y Gwent and Torfaen, also they have a view that they would like Monmouthshire to be part of that merger option. I think I believe, and I believe our group believe, that the whole idea of mergers is simplistic. And I go back to where I started. It was unsophisticated. It's not really going to answer all of the needs of Wales, South East Wales in particular, Monmouthshire even more particular. It does not address it. It's simplistic. It pushes local authorities together, okay, voluntarily perhaps in some cases, but forced, no doubt, in others. What will that lead to? Well, I see that leading to, at a time where Wales does not want to be embedded, embroiled in mergers, simplistic mergers, it leads to us wrestling with absolutely a huge process of merger and managing the merger issues, if that's what happens. It could present many years of us trying to understand what this new organisation we may create might look like. It would mean, I think what I've seen in the past, other reorganisations, members and officers and the whole organisations looking inwardly as they wrestle with that merging and they deal with the complexities around that. And the communities becoming disenfranchised as they become, they lose their democracy in many ways, or their opportunity to contribute in the way that they might have at the moment. That's a real worry for me. I don't think this simplistic approach is the right way, and I've said in my response to the Minister on the white paper that I believe there must be another option, and there clearly is another option. There are options we see in England and across Europe, where we see different models coming forward, which don't just look at this merger model. We can't afford to spend a lot of time looking inwardly, creating ourselves, reinventing ourselves, when we have a Wales which is in dire need of economic development, a need to get itself well established on the international stage, somewhere where investors across Europe want to invest, so that we can in the future have a place we can be proud of in Wales where we know that there are going to be good jobs for our young people wherever they live in the region, where they can live and grow up and bring their families up in the region. And I think that is so important that instead of us looking inwardly at mergers, we should be looking outward to the region. And we should be working collaboratively together with other authorities to find an approach which can give the economies of scale and the strategic outlook which is good for Wales and good for the region and good for Monmouthshire. But also those local authorities should be able to maintain what is important and key for local authorities, and that's about local democracy, it's about localism, it's about providing high quality services to our local communities, and local accountability, so we stand and fall by that accountability. Is it right that somewhere 50 miles away should have a decision on what might happen on a Monmouthshire school in Chepstow? I don't think that is right. However, we recognise that the status quo can't happen either. With the difficulties we're facing going forward, we are going to need to change. Local authorities of all descriptions, unitary or community, are going to have to do things different. We're going to have to work in a different way. So I recognise that we may have to change, but why can't we find a way which actually offers that localist opportunity, but still also looks to that wider strategic vision, which is ideally captured in the white paper. It's a great statement by the Wales Government, which we totally align to. Why can't we have that model as well, by realising that there are some areas of work that we can do across local government, we can do it together, collaboratively, make efficiencies, make the economies of scale, deliver a well-strategic position as well. We have an emerging, well, it's emerged, the Cardiff Capital Region, a city region, which is just starting to get gripped. We need our 10 authorities in South East Wales to be aligned to that, to be thinking of that, not turning away from it, working for the good of the people. Otherwise, we'll lose several years, as I suggested earlier, and that city region could wither and die on the vine, and we'll be left massively behind. Our status within the UK already is low. We need to turn that around and change the situation. We're seeing this model of a combined authority rising all across the UK. Manchester has been in place since 2011. We're seeing Sheffield, we're seeing Leeds, South Yorkshire, North West Yorkshire. Only yesterday I picked up a piece where Birmingham City Council, Dudley, Solihull, Black Country want to come together to create a combined authority. And the leader of Birmingham said there is no other game in town. And they've recognised that in England as a way forward to deliver those key strategic themes. But in Wales, we don't look to be looking at that. And we need to, because we've got the bones, we've got the structures, we've got the skeleton in place within South East Wales to be able to pull something really important together. So I am not in favour of a merger, and it's with no criticism of my neighbours. They have their own views and they do their own roles. And I don't think this is in the best interest of Monmouthshire, South East Wales, or Wales in particular. I think we should be looking at building on the relationships we have now and establishing a combined authority and retain, where we can, that localist agenda. I accept that internally in authorities, there will be a need for rationalisation. There will be a need to look at the amount of elected members within councils. I'm not saying the status quo can be preserved. And no doubt the Boundary Commission will come in and do their work, whatever happens. And that we have to accept that. But so, Mr. Chairman, just get the debate rolling. That is the model I see is the best way forward, and I don't think these simplistic mergers answer the question. There's a huge debate around each of those options, I know. So I'll leave it there and perhaps be able to come in again later on if need be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Penny Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I support Councillor Fox's idea excuse me, of collaboration, of shared resources and ideas. However, I'd like to start at the very beginning of this. This is a merger between a city authority and a rural authority. How can this be viable and credible? How can it work? And most of all, how can it be in Monmouthshire's favour at all? I would like to know the reasoning behind this recommendation and before any decision is made. And I think it's clearly our duty on behalf of the residents of Monmouthshire to find out the answers to these questions before we lose our identity again. So I recommend the collaboration, but I do think that there are further questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Armand Watts.
Thank you, Chair. I think change is inevitable. I mean, despite the Conservative Party saying, well, you know, we want change, but actually we don't. We want to retain the 22 local authorities. I noticed Peter's mentioned Birmingham City Council. Well, Birmingham City Council looks after approximately 3 million people. Wales alone has a population just beyond 3 million people. It is economically and culturally unsustainable to keep it as it is. Change is coming. And simply to reject change is standing in the way of progress. I mean, I always hear on the TV from David Cameron, the Conservatives talk about progressive conservatism. This is regressive. To stand in the way is economic suicide for Wales. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Petroni.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And as my colleague rightly put some of the arguments, I'll be elaborating on some of them. Keeping the status quo is unacceptable. I do not see, or this group does not see any argument whatsoever to keep the current status quo, 22 local authorities governing over 3 million people. So let me be clear, Chairman. We want fewer councils, less bureaucracy, fewer councillors and better frontline public services. And in this, we will go for 2.1.3 on the agenda, Chair. And I noticed the leader talked about the WRG proposals, or talked about Sheffield, Manchester and all these sorts of models. As my colleagues already pointed out, those cities already cover huge amounts of people, whereas it's a much smaller country, and we have to bear that in mind in terms of locale. But on the WRG proposal, particularly the South East region proposal, I mean, where do I start on picking holes in that proposal, Chair? I mean, there's so many details lacking for starters, but for brevity's sake, I'll concentrate my remarks on two main issues, if I may, Chair. The first one is around the model itself. And I've read all these models, and I'll just pick the Manchester model. So we're talking about probably regional strategic work on land use, commissioning of health and social services, things like that. And in that model, it's one member of the ruling group of that council gets to go and sit on those big regional boards. One member of the ruling group. So in this council, what's the other 42 councillors going to do? Well, this one member comes up and reports to us what everyone else has decided in Wales. what we're going to do on this particular issue, whatever power we've decided to cede over. That is an insanity. 42 councillors. What power will we have as local representatives? What power will we have to give change to our wards, to the people that we represent? We'd be sitting here talking about dog mess for an hour, realising we can't do anything about it because the Conservatives have cut the dog wardens. So it's utter nonsense. Moreover, on local accountability, Chair, on another issue, Chair, cross-border. We talk about South East region, working with Cardiff, other local authorities in Wales. Very important, always work with our neighbours. But Monmouthshire has a unique, we're on a border. And a big factor for us is Bristol. A massive factor for us is Bristol. So while we're talking to Cardiff, talking to other Welsh authorities, working collaborative, most of our residents, particularly in the south of the county, are going to Bristol, working with Bristol. So how are we going to factor that in the combined authorities? While Peter's giving all the power to Cardiff, Merthyr, Rhondda, all great valid councils, but when the Conservatives are handing over power to keep their seats, to keep Monmouthshire, they want more councillors with less power so they can keep control. It's a nonsense, Chair. So going back to our final point, Chair, actually I want to mention, the leaders mentioned about the Boundary Commission. He says he wants less councillors. The Boundary Commission actually recommended we had 3 more extra councillors in Monmouthshire. 3 more extra councillors. So 46 of us, 45 of us, with one having being able to go and speak to everyone. 45 of us sitting there doing nothing, Chair. So we want less bureaucracy, less councillors, and we want bigger councils with greater clout, having the power to actually enact change. In fact, bigger councils with greater powers, Chair. Public health would be one. Control over business rates would be another. Give us the power, if you're going to make us bigger authorities, give us the power to actually help our communities and bring greater change that the people in Monmouthshire and across the South East of Wales deserve.
Thank you, Councillor. I go to Councillor Kevin Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I will sit down rather than stand up because I think maybe you'll hear me better. I'd like to thank the leader for the party political broadcast on behalf of WLGA. It was a long bit of spiel and it probably summed up their proposal pretty well. As Councillor Truly says, it's going to take any decision making away from the rest of us to one individual to go and sit on a board with a load of other councillors, one from each authority. And Councillor Penny Jones here said about what on earth have we got in common with Newport, or what on earth have we got in the city region of Cardiff and places like that? Probably nothing. Councillor Harker-Payne said about the costs of it, and she can't understand, we're going from 80 million to 400 million. There needs to be more clarity. Well, hopefully there needs to be more clarity on every single option. So maybe, Councillor Harker-Payne will abstain on it and not vote on it. My view is a personal one, and it's based on somebody who was born and bred in Monmouthshire, up in the north, in the hills of Clydach and Netley Hill, and now representing Of Island. I think any move to merge us with Newport would be to the detriment of the people in that area. They'd be completely lost in it. My ward joins right on with Torfaen, and the Llanelli Hill ward joins right on with Torfaen and Blaenau Gwent, so they got more in common. On a personal note, I'd be quite happy to see Monmouthshire have the line drawn down the middle and let the south go to Newport if that's what they want, and the north go to Blaenau Gwent and Torfaen. But that's a personal opinion. I honestly believe that we should be here thinking about what's best for the people we were elected to represent, not what's best for us, for our political parties or anybody else. Yeah, if my seat goes because of it, so be it. Yeah, I'll have to go and try somewhere else if I want to. If not, well, bye bye Kevin, thanks for the last 5 years. But I believe we should be doing what's best for the people out there, and I think what's best for the people out there is to keep it as local as you can and cut down on the bureaucracy and the cost of what we're doing now. We were given 22 local authorities by King Redwood back in 1995, which was a complete disaster because most of them weren't big enough to, run a milk float, let alone social services and things like that. They're way too small. We need something that's going to work better for the people that elected us. Yeah, whether they voted for us or not doesn't matter. We're here to pick the best thing for them, and I think the best thing for them is to keep it as close to them as you can with the least amount of disruption. It's going to cost whatever we do, but I think this WLGA thing is complete nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I've now got Councillor Sarah Jones.
Thank you, Chair. And I think just adding to the point that Councillor Williams made, I don't think any of us here are talking about self-interest or our own positions. We're all here to represent our residents, and that's what I want to talk about. It's my community that I want to ensure they have a strong voice in the democratic process, and that the identity of our communities is not consumed or compromised by others who have a very different demographic. As you know, I represent a very much rural ward, probably one of the largest in the county. And we're already seeing huge cuts to rural areas. We've seen an 18% cut in the Welsh Government's rural affairs budget. We've seen the rural local authorities receive the lowest budget outside all of Wales. And do we really think that moving this forward and merging with Newport, we're going to see the rural residents have their interests represented? I think the potential for rural Wales to be decimated by these sort of mergers and the increasing centralisation agenda of the Welsh Government. You look at the planning reform bill, that's hardly going to be increasing the voice of our residents. Councillor Hackett-Payne talked about costings. Exactly, what are the costings behind the proposals? The Minister requests Newport and Monmouthshire to voluntarily merge and notes that this needs to be made known by November if we wish to do so. But how are we expected to merge when we have no understanding of the costs, where the council tax bill will be equalised, what the savings are, and what the budget could look like for the merged authority? It's my residents that are concerned about this merger, and it's them that I'm here to represent. The overriding message I hear from my residents is they do not want to merge with Newport. It's my job to express these concerns. I would like to know how the Welsh Government has or intends to engage with the communities that are going to be so affected by the delivery of services as we know it if this merger goes ahead. Having a consultation on a white paper ahead of a bill is not reaching out to the general public. Where has the engagement been outside of the political bubble? How can our communities make their voice heard and ensure their identity is protected? And will they be listened to? I fear not. I fear that this is going to be bulldozed through without any listening to our residents. The final point I want to make is about the impact on the diversity of councillors. The Minister has said he wants to dramatically cut the number of councillors, while some of us would probably agree with that. But if he's going to do that in the intention of trying to cut costs, how are you going to encourage more diverse groups to come forward as councillors in the future? We'll see the same old being the same demographic of the existing types of councillors coming forward, and that's not going to be good for democracy in the future. So, for the reasons above, I cannot support a voluntary merger with Newport. I want to see efficient public service delivery and reform to happen, but not in the way that it's being proposed, not in this heavy-handed and thoughtless manner.
Thank you, Councillor. I now have Councillor Maureen Powell.
Thank you, Chairman. There's a great difference between merging with another authority and working collaboratively. We've got the education that we're working with other authorities, which is working very well, and I can't see why we can't work in that way. Most of us here, well, all of us here, were elected by the people of Monmouthshire. And if you were to ask most of the people of Monmouthshire, do they want to become another authority, I'm sure they'd be quite astounded, because they've elected us here and we were representing Monmouthshire. We are now, as I said, working very well together. The cost of merging is going to be thousands and thousands of pounds. But if we work together authoritatively, there isn't a huge cost there because we're in our own particular area and they're in their own particular area. We're just meeting to collaborate. And I'm sure it will be more than just one from each authority. It's not just going to be one from each authority. There'll be advisors. It's like you could say, well, all right, we mustn't have just one Prime Minister, whatever their colour, because they can't make decisions for everybody. But they have a cabinet that advises them. They have their MPs which advise them, and the council is the same thing. When that person goes forward, they're representing what they've been told by their cabinet and by their members. So it's not one person making the decision on their own, they're just taking it forward. So I think that's a silly idea to say that one person's going to be taking it and nobody else will know what's going on. I believe that Councillor Fox's recommendation that we work as a collaboration with other councils, keeping our own identity, is by far the best. I know that with the people in my ward, we're going to be represented by people in Newport. They'd be astounded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you have any other contributions? I got Councillor Hobson, Councillor Harris, Councillor Easton.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. It's very unfortunate that Welsh Government, in their wise thinking, have actually opted for old-style thinking. It's relying on an idea of a model of local government that, frankly, is now dead and buried. And that is the principle: you draw a red line on a map, usually red, you give it a name, you call it a local authority, and it's one size fits all. And it doesn't work like that anymore, and it won't work like that in the future. Collaboration is the name of the game. Localism is now the name of the game, and it's that approach that is needed in this new agile, responsive and citizen-centred age, which unfortunately the Welsh Government's policy simply goes against. What we need to do is not to centralise, get more remote from our citizen taxpayers, Mr. Chairman. What we need is more responsive government. What we need is delegation. What we need is devolvement. What we need is repatriation of services and responsibilities to our town and community councils. But under Welsh Government policy, it's not just mergers which are going to be forced upon us. It's going to be ripping out the guts and the massive cull of town and community councils that, when abolished and when castrated, will not be in a position to run anything. This is a programme of mass centralisation in Cardiff Bay's favour against the citizen taxpayers of this county and every county of Wales. It will not work. It is not acceptable. There are fatal flaws in the plan. It results in more government, not less government. It involves more bad decision-making because it's in ivory towers, far away, distant from the citizen taxpayer who pays for those services and demands to be represented appropriately. It will impoverish our towns and villages because they will not be able to control their futures. They will not be able to control any decision-making. So, where do we go from here? There's also another fatal flaw in the plan of Welsh Government, that it refuses, and completely the Williams Commission also did the same thing. It failed to recognise the ageing population of Wales, as in the UK and the Western world, and how do you pay for that? Now for local government, that is going to be the big issue in the next decade by 2030. If you are facing that situation, Monmouthshire has to find 25 million for adult social care by 2030, you will be faced with an upheaval and a reorganisation of local government, which always takes 10 years to settle down. I was elected in 2004. The last local government reorganisation in Wales started in 1995, and we were still sorting out the mess that occurred from that. Is that what we're going to inflict upon local government in Wales and our citizens, just when our local authorities should be concentrating on how are they going to manage and mitigate an ageing population for statutory services that we must provide? I guarantee you, if you go down this road of upheaval, the cost of redundancies, reorganisation, and you take your eye off the ball of the big issue of the next decade, you will bankrupt this new system of local government. What will Welsh Government do then? What local government needs to be doing is keeping its eye on the ball for the issues that are coming. So what's the name of the game in town at the moment? It is about being agile, flexible, about commissioning services, about enabling services and local communities, and to stop and not a one-stop monolith provision of centralisation that accounts for nobody and is very, very remote from the people that have elected it. Let's talk about mergers. Ask people in Wiltshire who were imposed with a merger whether that has worked for their local communities. No, it didn't. Ask people in Cornwall, did merger actually make any difference or make their services better, being run from one building many, many, many miles away? It did not. Councillor Watt says that change is inevitable. Yeah, it is, good change, but this isn't good change, this is bad change. It's a change that will probably bankrupt local government, and it will destroy local government in Wales, probably to the advantage of an ever-centralising administration in Cardiff Bay. Devolution did not stop at Cardiff Bay. Devolution needs to go down to every street in Wales. And that is the method, and that is the approach that Monmouthshire has been taking. Progress, says Councillor Watts. This is not progress. This is a retrograde step. The current status quo, says Councillor Bitruni, does not meet our needs. Well, I read that means axe Monmouthshire. It doesn't matter. But he's absolutely right on one thing, and I would agree with him on this, that in South Monmouthshire you need to be looking at Bristol. Bristol is your economic powerhouse. It overlaps with that of Cardiff, which is behind, but nevertheless significant. If we merge, that will be lost, because we are being imposed with a one-size-fits-all. It's within that boundary, you call it a local authority, and it will provide those services. End of. No innovation, no flexibility, because Cardiff Bay are quite insistent. There is a border, you're quite right. They can't see beyond the border. If they saw beyond the border, they see that in the world, companies, governments, nations are cooperating, collaborating, outsourcing, being innovative. All that will be lost with this local government reform. Under Williams, there is no flexibility. Greater councils, bigger councils, greater powers, we're told. Powers for councillors, we're also told. That's what has been said here today. That is not the Monmouthshire way. It's power for communities on behalf of local people with grassroots responsibility. All that opportunity is going to be lost should we accept any other recommendation than the one that I can only agree with, which is 215. You leave the counties of Wales alone, you allow them freedom to collaborate on regional basis for those strategic services where you can get economies of scale, education, social services, transport and maybe planning. That's perfectly possible. That's the model that's being followed now, not just in England, but across Europe and across the modern world. At the same time, we need to devolve those town and village matters where they belong to the towns and villages of Monmouthshire and across Wales, whether it's parks or lighting, etc. There's only one way, and that is to go regional collaboration and devolve. And I recommend that we go with option 215, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I go to the next councillor, I'm sure you all have the best of order during each person having their opinion heard, and that's important that everyone expresses their opinion. So
can I just point of clarification? A council member was expressing an opinion on behalf of Cornwall and Somerset and Wiltshire. Just point that out.
We move on to Councillor Roger Harris, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not quite sure where to begin. I've heard a heck of a lot of old drivel so far, I must admit. But collaboration is the word that keeps coming out, and I challenge the leadership of the controlling group to give me 5, let's just say 5, areas of collaboration that they've negotiated with, entered into collaboration with the neighbouring local authorities since I've been here in the last 10 years. I find it a bit strange now that suddenly we should be talking about collaboration. We're talking about the fact, was it 1995, 1996, we suddenly had 22 unitary authorities, 22 chief execs, 22 leaders, and we're talking about this. Hackett Payne was talking about the amount of money that would be needed for reorganisation. Underlying all this is the poison that we get dripped the whole time, that the Welsh Government is totally incompetent and really shouldn't be here doing the job. And you've got to just put up with it, fellas over the other side. They are here, they are doing the job, and we feel exactly the same about whenever you applauded the organisation that's in charge up in Westminster. What we need to be doing here is thinking about the citizens of Wales, just over 3 million of them. As has been mentioned, there are some authorities in England that are around about that size. And we can't have 22 authorities with the amount of collaboration that we've been told about that's been happening so far and is going to happen, of which I'm still waiting, or will be waiting for what that collaboration is going to be. We need change, and it's going to happen. And by the way, I feel the same way about Newport refusing to even consider negotiating with us. Probably the same way that we feel about them. They're wrong as well as we are. There is no doubt about that. You know, we have got to do some collaboration in a big way. And while I'm on it, one of my favourite talking about collaboration, we have an authority here. We have 43 councillors, but we are, if you like, governed by 8 of you over there, and we keep saying there's talent throughout here. You're not using us, you're not collaborating with us, so that's self-preservation is the word. So there's only one option here, and that's 2, 1, 3. All the options are remaining open in 2, 1, 3. And if we go down any other route, then we're not doing the best for the citizens of Monmouthshire or indeed Wales.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll go to Councillor Tony Eason.
Thank you, Chair. It's difficult now to pull these threads together on what we were talking about this afternoon. To kill the myth about Newport City, I would imagine that about 50% of the area of Newport City is not dissimilar to Monmouthshire. It's quite rural. It begins just the other side of Mega, where we had our headquarters, and finishes the other side at St Mellons, and to the north, Llandegwydd Reservoir. Sorry? Very, very similar to Monmouthshire, farming communities and things like that. Newport, yes, has got a big population. I saw the video of Newport when they had their decision on the middle of September. I wasn't very impressed with the way the debate went. I feel that they were shooting the horse before they had a chance to bolt away from wherever. But Newport, I'm not saying we should merge. I'm not saying we shouldn't merge. That is just where I see where Newport fits, and I'm not making a view on whether we should or whether we shouldn't. But I have some sort of sympathy with Councillor Fox's view that we need a wider collaboration, but I don't support the Cardiff bit. But as far as I'm concerned, I sat on the rail transport working group for quite a while, and all we find is a battle against the big city bit, which finishes at St Mellons, and at one stage didn't even consider Newport. It takes a long time for them to consider that Seven Tunnel Junction exists. So if you consider that working with a region that's within the WLGA report, I believe we'd be left out in the cold. I think there is another way forward, and I think if you go back, when I was a bit younger than I am now, Councillor Ingleson might remember it, we did have the Gwent County Council. I think the Gwent County Council was a successful council. It was broken up by a Tory administration in the 90s to create 5 councils, all diverse. We're now looking at a situation where Newport don't want to join us. We don't know where we want to join, whether we should stay on our own. But I think Gwent County Council was a good way forward because it was working well. The collaboration was there. It was in place. I would like to see us go back to that sort of council where we all have an affinity to each other. We already have the United Women Health Board under Gwent. We already have the police under Gwent. We have half the fire service. Perhaps that could be brought back under Gwent. There's a lot of facilities out there which are tied to Gwent, and I would like to see Gwent brought back into the equation as a merged authority. It may mean that some facilities, like education, which is as it is in the EAS, would run completely across that authority. As I say, the fire service, the police service, they're all independent within that authority. Social services could equally be in that frame. So my view is that we should be looking at 2.13, which gives us the option of all sorts of mergers. I don't want to see us into a forced merger situation. It'll mean I could be until 2020, and I don't think I can last that long. So I would support 2.13 as an open option, a viable option, and a way forward to, I think, encompass lots of members' views from around here without tying ourselves down to a WLGA proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll go to Councillor Bob Greenland.
Thank you, Chair. Well, the Williams report was produced in just a few months. That was all the Welsh Government gave them to do it. A few months to decide the future of the public service delivery in Wales over the next, 50 years or so. And I think there have to be great question marks over the report because of that reason. Why didn't they have a look at the boundaries? Because quite clearly, the issue of boundaries is something that most people would have liked them to look at. Where's the business case? We're expected to put a business case before we do almost anything. There's no business case presented, again, probably because there wasn't enough time. And what about asking the citizens for their views? We're expected to engage, and we do, because that's the right thing to do, on everything. There is nothing in the report, and there's nothing in the Welsh Government proposals that looks at actually asking citizens who are going to have to be paying for any reorganisation and paying for further services what they actually want. And where is the evidence that big is best? It's certainly not in the report. And if you look at what is the largest council in Birmingham, for an example of a local authority, well, actually, their children's services have been in the mire for years. And now they find themselves with a commissioner. With a commissioner looking after their education services. Is big best there? It's clearly failing in Birmingham. And perhaps it's failing because it is too big. It's much easier to turn around a small boat than it is a large tanker. Now, the report also says, and indeed the Minister for Public Services said the other day, we will see savings here, we'll see 10 chief executives going, and we'll see lots of councillors going. Okay, we know how difficult it is at the moment to get councillors and candidates to come forward. How much more difficult is it going to be if 2/3 are doing the job that our councillors are doing at the moment? And let's not forget either the other commission that's looking at the moment, the Silk Commission, because what that is proposing is that we increase the number of assembly members. And I've heard 20, 30, 40 additional assembly members with their high salaries, with their offices in each constituency, with their larger offices down in Cardiff. They haven't got enough room in Cardiff for all these extra AMs. They certainly haven't got enough room in the Senedd. And all their expenses, travelling and accommodation.
Chair,
so where is going to be the savings if you replace councillors with more assembly members?
Excuse me, councillor. Is the councillor calling a point of order? What is your point of order, councillor?
On clarity, we're not quite sure the particular one of the new brief at the moment. We're not talking about the Welsh Government, we're talking about this particular thing here. Councillor Green is bringing in issues not necessary.
Councillor, a point of order is where we've breached the rules of debate, and I think the debate is ensuing and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I ask the councillor to continue.
So, one assumes that the Welsh Government appointed somebody who has got experience of reorganisation. Sir Paul Williams has a long history of working for the National Health Service in Wales, and in fact was in charge of the National Health Service and oversaw the last reorganisation of health boards to provide a better health service and a more efficient health service for Wales. Well, that went well, didn't it? So even if costs could have been cut in 2010 when they started looking at this, I honestly do not believe, certainly in Monmouthshire's case, that you could cut costs in this authority any more than we now have. We have made huge cost savings in Monmouthshire without affecting the frontline services. Where are they going to find further costs by amalgamation? We've got two proposals. One is that we should amalgamate with Newport. Now, whatever Councillor Easton says, Newport is a city council. It is an urban council. Its focus, quite rightly in many ways, is on improving the city centre in Newport. Is that where we, as a junior partner with the Newport Authority, would like to see our residents' money spent? Would our residents like to see their money spent in Newport? Blaenau and Torfaen are quite different authorities from this. Quite rightly, they have got different problems to Monmouthshire, and quite rightly, they should be focusing their money on certain priorities to improve their area. But it's not Monmouthshire, and I have no doubt that Monmouthshire would not like to see their money spent on the problems of Blaenau and Torfaen. The Welsh Government already gives a huge amount of additional money for the problems of Blaenau and Torfaen, and that is not what our residents, I'm sure, would like to see we spending our money on. We just heard a challenge. Tell me 5 collaboration projects that have worked. Well, actually, we could give them much more. We've already heard about the Educational Achievement Service, recognised as a flagship way of taking services forward on a regional basis.
Can I call for order in the chamber, please, while people are giving their views? You'll all get a fair time to express your views, but please keep quiet while others are speaking.
We also know of the Local Service Board. We know of Project Girth. We know of the highly successful Gwent Frailty project, which ministers in Cardiff have said is one of the best that they have seen. We look at outdoor education. We collaborate on outdoor education, and of course we collaborate in the shared resource services. And there's many more been going around the table as I've spoken as well. So, Chairman, I frankly cannot support that we would move forward with a forced amalgamation. For an amalgamation to take place, you have to have 2 authorities which have got synergy and common goals. Clearly, neither of the options that we have that at all. So, where can we go? Are we the best that we can be in Monmouthshire now? No, clearly we're not. We've had the examples of collaboration where we've brought forward better services and cheaper services, which have been acknowledged right throughout Wales. But we haven't been able to do as much as we liked because it takes 2 to tango, and we haven't always had the cooperation of other councils. I do agree that the Welsh Government now needs to move forward and actually force some further cooperation. And I would very much favour a federation of councils working together on these major projects across South Wales, perhaps across the coast region. We started with the city regions, but obviously, as points have been made before, there's only one of our members. That's not exactly what we're looking at. What we want to look at is maintaining our local accountability, but moving forward on large projects where the economies of scale can help us achieve better services and cheaper services. Why are Welsh Government looking at this? Well, I think we probably know why they're looking at it. Welsh Government doesn't actually believe in local control. Welsh Government believes in central control. Do you remember when the current minister was actually Minister for Education, he said on collaboration, if you don't collaborate, I'll force it you to, and if you don't do it then I'll take all the powers back to Cardiff. And that, of course, is what they want. Labour is all about central powers. They would much rather see 12 local authorities who are almost permanently controlled by their puppets, the Labour members, so that they can actually say, we're in charge of the whole of Wales. And I don't care what party it is, but if we get in Wales to the point at which one party controls everything in Wales, both from Cardiff and at the delivery of services, we are in for some real problems. I support option 5.
Thank you, Councillor. I now go to Councillor Val Smith.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to say anything, but Tony prompted me to get up. And looking round this chamber, I think I'm the only member that was actually involved in the previous reorganisation. That was really quite entertaining because the then county council leader, and the day before was still denying that it would actually occur. And great credit to the officers of Monmouth who brought us through. And I can certainly recognise 2 or 3 officers who served previously there. So we're very thin from that era, aren't we? I find myself thinking, are we looking at this from the top down or bottom up? I'm sitting here questioning in my own little mind, what are councillors for? What are we about? If you have less councillors, do you lose the democratic aspect? You know, would democracy really benefit from this? Look at Wales. We all know Wales. We travel Wales, the different areas, the different aspects, the different characters, the different way that issues have got to be tackled. There's no one size that will fit everything across Wales. I feel a considerable irritation with this report, trying to push everything into bundles without considering the residents of the areas. What you're actually going to do for them, is it really going to benefit them? It'll be an expensive measure, but it's something that's going to be embarked on. There is a need for change, yes, because the world moves on. I'm still trying to cope with the technology, as you all know. There's been a reference to England and the reorganisation there. Yeah, they're a lovely mix there. You had donut authorities there. So it's a common sense approach that's been taken there with uniting county and unitary authorities in some places. I don't believe that big is always beautiful. I believe that within Monmouthshire County Council, yes, we are strapped for cash. We always have been. With that disaggregation of services those years ago, we lost out right, left and centre, especially with the highways budget. The other authorities agreed that we lost out, but they weren't going to give the money back, so we struggled on. We've had really good initiatives. That frailty programme is really to be commended, compared with the other authorities who are trying to catch up. The way we've treated the collection, whatever, of waste, has been good. We're thrifty, we're mean, we have to be. And other councils should be looking at the way we do. Smaller authorities can use their initiative, they can trial projects, and those projects can be emulated elsewhere. Yes, local government does need looking at, the way it's financed, the way it's organised, but comes back to my question. Will the residents actually benefit by having less councillors to represent their views? How are you going to make the communities aware that this is ongoing? Because if Sarah's been consulted by her folks about it, great, because nobody's mentioned it to me. They'll tell me if their bin bags aren't collected, but as for government reorganisation or anything like that, school transport's an interest as well. So, yes, we do need to alter things, but what we have in Monmouth has been well honed over the years. We've got a lot that we could be selling to other authorities, and I think by trying to push into big authorities and thinking this is going to benefit, I can't honestly see it doing that. I hope there's a whole lot of rethinking. I hope this debate doesn't become political. It shouldn't be. We are here, we are elected by the residents of Monmouthshire to represent them, all of them, and let's not lose sight of that with the politics, please, gents.
Thank you, Councillor. I now call on Councillor David Devey.
Thank you, Chairman. The first thing that went through my mind as this debate has gone on, and we're talking about opportunities and scale and population and resources being allied to that, and some of the points that have been made here make me think whether Wales as itself then perhaps is questionable as a viable entity in its own right, because some of the things that have said rather bounce off that. I think what we need here, or what is required, is willing parties to be involved in any sort of merger. And we don't have that here. What we have is the Welsh Assembly trying to force parties together, and that will never work. There has to be some culture that is the same. They have to have similar objectives. Their economies have to have some similarity. There has to be synergy. You have to be able to work with one another. It's a fact of life. It's not good enough just to say, well, because we're close to Newport or we're close to Torfaen, you should merge with them. That doesn't work. We could see Newport doesn't want to merge with us. They understand that they have a different profile to us completely. We should not be seeking a short-term solution, because what this will be, if we go forward with this, will be a short-term solution. And we will, some poor blighters will be back trying to sort out what will be the wrong decision at this time. We need a solution which will benefit our young people, our population. It should bring more wealth to the area. It should encourage new business into the area. That's what we're looking for here. And I've got to say here, people ought to be looking at what Edwina Hart is doing, because she is trying to drive the economy up along this coastal region. She's been in Chepstow. She's driving the railway, the new railway up there, but the metro system up here. And she is trying to make not only transport, but also business linked up here. She, in many ways, is mirroring what has happened about 30 or 40 years ago across in Bristol. Because members should remember, I'm old enough to remember, that the Seven-Side Development Project was meant to be on both sides of the channel. The difference was that Bristol grabbed hold of it with both hands. First thing they did was push the port out to Avonmouth. I remember when the port was still in the town. They weren't quite sailing ships, but but they really grabbed a hold of the thing. And the difference between that side of the channel and this side of the channel is quite stark. And now we have Bristol as being this most entrepreneurial city in this part of the wider country, if you like. It's doing extraordinarily well. We should see Bristol, by the way, as an opportunity for us in Monmouthshire, not as a problem. So I think we should be looking for an option that signals to the rest of the world, if you like, as far as Wales is concerned, that we can see ahead, see differently. We should be making our place a place where people want to come to and work to, bring business to. That is what we're all about here. That is what will make things better. Look what other people are doing. The Americans started off with this city concept ages ago. I was lucky enough to be across in LA when they were kicking off with that. And it is an extraordinary concept. It's in Europe now. It isn't dogmatically the same. It can be developed and reflect the particular needs. So on the whole, I think that I go totally with the leader's point on this, and I would support his motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I now have Councillor Brian Jones.
Reading the paper again, I'm not sure that we have given so far adequate consideration to paragraph 421, where I note that there is interest from Torfaen and Blaen y Gwent in joining with us in some way. I would be very disappointed if we went from this chamber today setting our face against any sensible dialogue, which this might well be. Curiously, those three coming together would be not dissimilar from the original Monmouthshire, rather than the truncated version that we currently have. So, bearing in mind that the decision probably isn't going to be ours anyway, I would very much like us to preserve some means, and I think this is what Councillor Batruni is saying, some means to enter into dialogue, because if we don't actually preserve that, then sooner or later we will be told to. So, why not Torfaen, Blaen y Gwent and Monmouthshire? It isn't actually an exceptional merger as I read the paper, because it doesn't cross health boundaries, but it is an interesting combination, and it would still give Newport the option to see sense and join us later.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Jim Higginson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just went AYA for a few minutes. But to go back to a few things being said, I can remember these things go in 20-year cycles. 2014, 94, 74 before that. And things change and change dramatically. And for Councillor Smith's benefit, I was on the old Monmouth Borough Council with her. And I know, and what she says is right, up until the final day, the then leader of the county council said this is not going to happen, but it did, didn't it? And we just can't get away from it. It's going to happen. We've been told it's going to happen, and whether politically you like it or politically you don't, that's how it is. And we get things from London, don't we? That this will happen, that will happen. And so, this is the sort of thing we get from all governments of all descriptions in all countries. In relation to the boundaries, it's been said that, we might want to alter boundaries. It's been stated by the Welsh Government there will be no boundary changes in terms of cutting off bits of this and transferring to other authorities. The mergers, regarding mergers, we've heard it all this afternoon. There are many views on who we should merge with, or should we merge or not merge. But at the end of the day, we're going to find ourselves in a situation, if we're not careful, of being forced into something. And it's better that we do something voluntary rather than be forced. While you're doing it voluntary, you can consider all implications of a merger. When you're being forced, you find yourself with very little time to do what you need to do. And we talk about collaborations. Yeah, there are many collaborations, and we hold our hands up to that. They've been very good, and so far they are fairly successful. But I will conclude, Mr. Chairman, by saying that I think that 2.1.3 is the ideal one, which I will be supporting the proposal. Because I think it leaves all options open, which is what we need to do. But having said that, we do need to get on with the job. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, have I got any other first-time contributions that like to be made by any councillors? Any other first-time? Councillor Howarth.
Thank you, Chairman. It is powerful to have this debate today, and it's long overdue. We should have had this probably a couple of months ago. But we're here now, and I won't beat about the bush with what I've heard. We're going to have the political shenanigans going on. Everybody's going to have different views. I think everybody in here, personally, if we went to a closed vote here, you'd probably find some people would actually probably do it a different way. The interests of the people are the most important thing in all this, and what we can deliver at the end of it. That's why we're here, every one of us. I've never known 43 be as passionate about the people they represent, the 80,000 people, 80-something thousand people we have. We're all passionate, and we're passionate about Monmouthshire also. I've heard some really good stuff here today as well. I think, Councillor Hobson, I'll congratulate you on the ageing population there. On that is something we must think about in the long term of what we're going to represent within Monmouthshire and the outer areas. Firstly, the options which we have before us, they're not meaty enough. Newport Council, if we go down that line with Newport, they've totally blatantly shut the door on us. Well, does that mean if we open the door up, are they going to talk to us? That's possibly a no. So there's no deals to be done, really. Where are the deals? Because at the end of the day, if we're going to wheel and deal, that's what it's about. So where are the deals? Somebody can answer that question for me as leaders, because you're leading the council. Have we any deals? There's nothing there on the table at all I can actually go at today to vote on. So firstly, I'd probably say, let's put more on this and bring it back here, because I need something to go on. I've got nothing at all. I've listened to it all. I've said it before, but we've got nothing. There's not one thing I could say I'd like to go down that line. Blaenau Gwent, Torvine, possibly. But have we had them conversations with them? No. It's saying have it here, but sure we should have had the conversation before we bring it here. Where's Newport in all that? The ministry isn't going to allow us to go to Torvine and Blaenau Gwent and leave Newport on their own there. No way will that happen. So what I'd like to see is more conversations, whatever we can have from them 5 proposals we've got before us today. I would like to see something and then bring it back here. Have them conversations and bring it back with them all. No deal. There's nothing to be had from us at the moment. Let's have something to be had and we can have more conversations. I won't talk too much because I've heard some really good stuff, but there's things to be done and a lot of hard work to be done with the leaders, or the leader of the council and the chief executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Francis Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I've done quite a bit of reading around the Williams report and the white paper, the devolution, democracy and delivery. But I do feel at a slight disadvantage because obviously the leader has submitted a response on the consultation around the white paper on devolution, democracy and delivery, which I assume to be a political response, because it I assume, although I would be grateful to know, is not a response on behalf of this council, because we couldn't have done that without having a debate today. But I would have really welcomed, in the spirit of collaboration, an opportunity to understand the rationale for why, for example, the leader is supporting very much the proposal of a combined authority. Or as Councillor Greenland puts it, a federated approach. The reason for the Williams Commission is because they are concerned about the scale and the sustainability of local government in Wales. And I think there are some good points there to be made. The real problem is that many public services are just not delivering for residents. That's the real thing. That's the real problem. But what we're doing is we're making a very traditional response. How can we reorganise? We're not starting off with the right questions, which is what should our public services look like? And therefore, what are the structures that we need to deliver them? So if you don't ask the right question, you'll never get the right answer. I'm interested in what Val and Jim say about, this comes in 20-year cycles, some of us were here before. Well, that's really good. I'm really glad that there are some people who've lived through those changes, because the problem is we have very short memories. People go, oh yeah, that happened. But, what did it bring? What were the pros? What were the cons? I see very little, as Councillor Howarth says, I see very little substance in any of the proposals. What are the facts? I think it's very heavy on pushing us in various directions and very light on facts. And I personally do not ever feel able to make decisions unless I have all the facts before me, and I sadly just simply don't feel in that position. I think that the problem with the Welsh Government proposals and the White Paper is that they really do throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we can all acknowledge there are across Wales some excellent examples of some excellent services which are delivered, but we're very poor at ever learning from other people. So we don't, instead of taking the good examples and replicating them, we just say, oh, I know what we'll do, we just do it all differently. That's the classic sort of, government response, whether it's local, national, or any kind of government. I think a very, very worrying feature is the lack of a clear business case, either for a merger proposal or, I have to say, for the combined authority proposal, because it means that we simply do not know. And lots of people have spoken about the fact that we are making decisions on behalf of the residents who we are accountable to. We don't know. So how can we go down a road when we don't know where that's going to lead them? I think that's problematic. I think that residents just simply want the best services available to them. And I think actually, I do disagree with some people here, I don't think they care who delivers those services, actually. I think they don't care what that body looks like. I think they just want the best services. And I'm not sure that any of these proposals actually really address that at the moment. A really good, in terms of the combined authority, let's have a look at, it's not exactly the same, but, SUTA existed. It was a confederation of councils to look at transport. Mrs. Hart didn't think that was working very well, so she recently disbanded it. So there are clear examples of where things, come and go. Just because we are a federation drawn together, that doesn't necessarily work. There are questions about, what the G7, that's been meeting for years. What's that delivering for people? That's kind of, an example of bringing people together in collaboration. I'm just not sure, as, some people have said, that there's anything really here that one could really nail nail a flag to and say, well, yeah, I think that's great. I can really see that. Equally, there are some really not good things about local government. We ourselves have our education system still in special measures. And so we could argue, you know, I don't think it's right to either to be precious and just talk about Monmouthshire. There are some great things about the county of Monmouthshire, but actually the people of Monmouthshire would want their services to be the best they can be, no matter who delivers them, I think. So really, if I were going to sum up, I would say I'd propose an amendment to any of our recommendations, which is that we do some serious work on understanding what the business case is behind these proposals, and we satisfy ourselves that the way we are going to jump on behalf of our residents is the right way for our residents, that we look at the form following the function and not the other way round. Thank you, Chair.
Right, councillors. Are there any other councillors who want a first-time contribution that hasn't had a say so far? Right, what I'm prepared to do now is to allow councillors a second say where they've got something further to add to the debate which hasn't been mentioned. I don't want councillors standing up and repeating what they've already said, if you see what I mean. So if anyone's had a thought process and has thought there is something they want to add to the debate, I will allow you to come in. I've got Councillor Fox.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and I thank members for the debate so far, but I think I need to clarify what I was saying because there's clearly some unclarity about what I was saying. I've heard people saying that I'm looking at preserving 22 authorities. I haven't said that. Whilst the option on combined authorities is mentioned there, that doesn't mean to say I'm supportive necessarily of the WLGA paper, which talked about combined authorities across the whole of Wales. I don't actually think that model necessarily suits the whole of Wales, but I think the model very much suits South East Wales. And I linked that and my rationale to the Cardiff capital region, the emerging city region, and the need to work closely with our colleagues in other authorities to deliver the best outcomes for South East Wales and Wales as a result, but also to work very closely with our neighbours across the water in Bristol and other city regions across the UK for the good of Wales. So that's where I was coming from. But I'm a passionate Monmouthshire man, and I believe in Monmouthshire, and Monmouthshire as we know it. I am absolutely clear in my mind that we are the best people to deliver the services for Monmouthshire. However, I recognise there is a need for economies of scale. So some things I am suggesting that we do in a formalised way with other authorities. That's all I'm saying. And I'm happy to have those deeper conversations with other leaders across Wales who are also happy to have those conversations to at least explore the options here. To roll over because the minister says this, just to roll over and say, well, we better get on and merge now then with our Labour authorities. Why should we just grab that? I've heard today, Chairman, members again and again saying, let's merge with Torfaen and Blaen y Gwent, let's merge with Newport. And then what we hear, though, is that we're going to support 213. I need clarity on this, Mr. Chairman, because 213 isn't really a recommendation. It doesn't give any direction. Is there a clear recommendation from the opposition party that they wish to merge with Newport or they wish to merge with Blaen y Gwent and Torfaen? If that's the case, come out and say that, and let's have a clear position of how you stand in regard to this. I'm very clear that I am absolutely standing up for Monmouthshire. And that's what I'm planning to do in voting for 215 and moving that. What I'm doing is resisting the merger proposal and advocate the development of a combined authority, but also agree with 2.2. In the end, if all these things don't happen, of course, I, as a responsible leader, will have the conversations that are needed to take forward whatever is imposed on us. But I'm not happy for this authority to roll over because some people in Cardiff are saying, this is what you've got to do, Monmouthshire, and I'm not going to run scared like my opposition members over the other side of the chamber who are looking at options which really are politically driven. Thank you.
Right. Do I have any councillors with additional information? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. As I said before, I will repeat myself on the first line. I'm not going to stand up. thanks to the leader for that. Totally non-political response. It would smack to me as if that's exactly what it is, however. We are collaborating well with other local authorities, and it's going quite well. We collaborate with Torfaen on many things. We collaborate with Blaen y Gwent. So does that make merger out the question then? One of the things which I've picked up from this debate is that, first of all, the leader stood up, supposedly espousing the rights of this WLJ response, and now he's telling us that he doesn't actually support that. Could he, when he gets up and gives another response, actually tell me what it is he does go for? And I really wish, the guys on my right were running the Welsh Assembly, because never have I seen so many people agree on so many things without exception.
Councillor Taylor.
Can I clarify, Chair? Is it possible to make an amendment on that, just as I suggested? And if I...
Can I advise you, Councillor,
Yes.
there are no recommendations here as such. These are options that you've got there. I will be asking for proposals when I think this debate is frustrated.
Fine.
So I will wait till the end of the debate and then call for motions, okay?
Thank you, Chair. So can I...
Any motion is possible in this chamber.
Thank you very much. And can I just continue?
I'm not taking motions at the moment.
No, I know.
Right.
But can I say what I was going? Oh no, I'll shut up. Okay, thank you.
Chair, just on a point of clarity on that, you said there are no recommendations, they're just options. Why is it entitled recommendations?
The recommendation that council seeks a position, but the listed items are options. No, if you see what I mean. Right, is there anyone else who wants to add to the debate with something that hasn't already been said? I got Councillor Hobson, I got Councillor Greenland, I got Councillor Petroni.
Yeah, just very quickly, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, just reference to Councillor Howarth and Councillor Taylor. It is about options going forward, and I would agree with you to a large extent. Where is the detail? Where's the devil in this? I would say if options to move forward, I hope you could find, given that's your only choices, that 215 is the one to do, because then is the one that gives us the most flexibility, that allows us to keep our innovation in Monmouthshire, that allows us to be the one that basically forges ahead in local government where nobody else does. I would say, I absolutely agree. Councillor Taylor said something which was so important, is people there actually don't really care who delivers the service or what name it's given or something. Absolutely right. And I think that I would agree with Councillor Taylor, even if it's delivered in a collaborative manner, it doesn't matter what the label is on it, on the name. What is important, and I hope she would agree with me, is the accountability angle. And if merger happens, or Welsh Government or Cardiff Bay get their way, the accountability goes down the toilet.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Watts has been waiting patiently to add a further comment.
Yeah, Chair, well, I think what disappoints me is some of the language that's been used in this debate, and it has been a good debate, but it's like, I've heard from some, we don't want those people down in Newport making a decision. Why? Why? Is it because they're working class? Is it because their political preference? No, hang on, allow me. Is it because their political preference is different to obviously the people that vote for her?
Chairman.
No, just as a point of order.
Said that because I don't recall hearing that at all.
No, I'm asking, is it because?
Point of order, Chair. Can you ask the Deputy Leader under what record?
Could I just say to the councillor, could you express an opinion? Questions can be asked after outside the chair.
Yeah. So I'm perplexed why that all of a sudden that Newport is this kind of monster that's going to take over Monmouthshire and kind of roll out some kind of left-wing ideology and suck up the kind of capitalists of the county. It simply isn't the case. They're ignoring the pragmatic arguments of this merger for all the reasons I gave before. And I think the thing that disappoints me is the inability to think beyond that there will be elections which they will want to stand for. And inevitably, Peter's an ambitious man. He'll probably want to push on and see himself kind of be part of that new council, as some other people will. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he will have a say. He, as he said, as a Monmouthshire man, will fight for the rights of the people in his ward and for Monmouthshire. And I don't doubt that. I don't disbelieve him. But it will be part of a new authority. So why be fearful of that if he's so confident about articulating his own case? I don't see why you have to continually paint Newport as some kind of awesome monster that's going to subsume Monmouthshire. Monmouthshire can be part of something new and positive.
Right, I'll go to Councillor Greenland now, and I'm looking for additional thoughts and information. I'm not looking for people defending in that sense.
I think, having listened to the debate, that Councillor Taylor has actually got it right. We haven't got all the information that we need in terms of being able to make a definitive move in, well, I won't say in any direction, because I think we have. But certainly, what we need to do is to know more about what is on offer in 215, and we need to move forward with talks on that basis. As regards 213, it refers to voluntary mergers. Now, we do know that Newport are not in favour of a voluntary merger. So if you're supporting 213, then it stands that you are only supporting a merger with Blaina and Torvine, because that's the only voluntary merger available. So I'm assuming that, and please correct me if I'm not right, Councillor Petruni, but I'm assuming that if you're going to support 213 for a voluntary merger, you are in fact supporting a merger with Blaina and Torvine. And on both 1 and 2, I am absolutely against that, because I believe they're against the interests of the people of Monmouthshire, but I'd actually like to find out from the people of Monmouthshire what they really think.
Thank you, Councillor. I've now got Councillor Petruni who wishes to add to the debate.
I believe I actually support what Councillor Howard and Councillor Taylor said. There is not enough information, but the Conservatives or the controlling group wanted the debate. They've pushed this debate now. I mean, we were quite happy to the respective groups put their own submissions in, and now we've been confronted with this debate, and now they're saying there's not enough information. Well, you wanted this. Make up your mind. So, and our point on 2.13 is that we keep all our doors open, because 2.13 doesn't exclude 2.2, where the leader and the respective...
But it excludes 2.1.
It includes 2.2 as well. 2.1, 2.3 includes, so we don't close any doors, Chairman. So we don't close any doors. We'll speak to anyone at all. We'll negotiate, and what you're doing is shutting doors. You're saying, no, we're not. We're ruling out mergers. We're ruling out mergers full stop. 2.15 just says we want to keep more councillors. We want to keep ourselves, ideally. We want to keep the local democracy in this Monmouthshire area. But it cannot be right. It cannot be right where in this, I won't mention names, but one councillor in this area represents only 900 people, 900 electors. Well, I can send you the link, Councillor Fox, if you dispute that. With only 900 electors, that's not credible. I represent nearly 2,000, other council members do. We need to have a bit of equity here. We cannot have councillors just representing 900 people. Councillor Sarah Jones talked about identity. I get what she's saying, but I fear, and that's what I think Councillor Watts was referring to, this word about identity. And the Newport Council was the same. I'm not just saying this was a Conservative. We're talking about them, us, they don't relate to us, you do not relate to us. And that kind of politics really, really upsets me. That's not the line we should go down and start talking about identity and you're different and them and us kind of argument. Councillor Hobson talks about accountability, and it's incredibly important. I totally agree with him, except he wants more accountability, but no powers to enact change at all. He talked about handing more powers over collaboration, while handing more powers to town and community councils. Fine, but what will us do as county councillors then? What will we do? If town and community councillors are delivering services at the sharp end, and why not? Let's look at that. And we're collaborating on a regional basis, then what are we doing here? And this is what the debate's about. If we're going to hand power down to local communities, then fine, let's look at that. Let's talk about that. But if we're going to have strategic community, let's just do away with collaboration, just merge, reduce the number of us. I'm talking about reducing the number of councillors. That's where you save money. The calculation, as I understand it, on the southeastern region doesn't talk about that. You talked about the Boundary Commission increases us by 3 more councillors. That is surely not fair. And Councillor Greenan talked about, correct me if I'm wrong, talked about small is beautiful along those lines, and I mentioned that the centralised state of Birmingham was terrible. oh dear, Councillor Greeland. Talked about Birmingham's Children's Services when we're in special measures for education by a small local authority. And on collaboration, you were forced to do many of those collaborations. Welsh Government told you to do a lot of those Welsh collaborations. So let's have a free and frank debate about this. And we, as a Labour group, are very, very clear. We are open to speak to Newport, but Newport have expressed their view, but we're still open the door, keep the door open to them. 2.2 expressly says we can have a discussion, or you will have a discussion with the Chief Executive with Newport. Torvine or Blaina, we're happy with that as well.
Right, Councillor, I've got the Chief Executive who I think needs to clarify the reason why we're here today.
Just quickly, and can I just say, high quality debate. It is really enjoyable to listen to this. I just wanted to come back in on a point raised by Councillor Taylor, and I think echoed by a few others, and just re-emphasise that the information that you have available in front of you is all the information there is. There is no more information. No more is going to be developed. This is everything that you have to make an informed decision. The government of the Principality intends to produce, commission, no more. So you have everything that you're going to get. So I just make that point for you. Just one other point. A reason that the timing of this conversation is important is clearly I've encapsulated for you in 437 the timeline. You know, it's a timeline that's we're not setting. And frankly, we have little to no influence on. And whilst I could have taken the timeline back for you into this month, September, August, months that have gone, the next key decision-making point, I would suggest an important point, is the 28th of November, by which, if you are minded to submit an application for voluntary merger, you have to submit an application for voluntary merger. So all I'm looking to re-emphasise is, understandably and correctly, members always want as much information as they can get to make the best conscious choice. There is no more. And I guess what you run a risk of, and it may not be a big risk for you, and it certainly may not be a big risk for some of you, is that the 28th of November, as I understand it from Welsh Government colleagues, is a non-movable. So when you consider your options today, you need to consider your options in light of that. And I think, just to re-emphasise a point that the Chair made in response to Councillor Williams, the recommendation today is that you arrive at a position. It may be 2.1 through 2.5, it may be 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9. Nothing is meant to be off the table for you today, which again I think comes back to Councillor Taylor's point. If something comes from this conversation that hasn't appeared elsewhere, all well and good. You know, you are having a clean debate as a sovereign organisation, so you should not feel fettered in any way, shape or form. So, clarification rather than contribution to debate.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I now have Councillor Harris and then Councillor Howarth to add further points which haven't been raised so far.
Thank you, Chair. I think what the controlling group over there is forgetting is that the Commission has been set up. It is a Labour-controlled administration down in Cardiff, and they are pulling the strings, if that's the way you want to look at it. And as much shouting and screaming about that is not going to alter that fact. Now, if you look at the report, it's saying quite clearly what we want is for you as local authorities to consider deeply voluntary mergers. If you do, we will really look at that in a positive way and make sure, if you like, you get rewarded. If you decide you aren't going to have anything to do with that, we will tell you what is going to happen, because we are in charge. You just got to get that fact into your heads over there.
Councillor, I've got a point of order from my left. Could you say what the point of order is, how we have breached the rules?
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted clarification, Mr. Chairman, that are we? How does Councillor Harris know that we are going to be rewarded if we consent to the merger?
No,
From Welsh Government,
I
we
will
don't.
leave. There's no point of order here. I will ask the councillor to continue and express his opinion, and we'll come back after. Please continue, Councillor Harris.
I think, as it's been mentioned, it's in the paper. So, you know, we've heard that maybe we haven't got enough information on any of these options. Certainly, Councillor Taylor has said that, and Councillor Peter Fox has said that. Are we going ahead? Are we going to go ahead and make a decision? The chief exec says we've got to. So we all know that we can never have enough information. We could go around knocking on the doors of every single household and ask for people's opinion out there. Most of them would not have a clue, as already has been mentioned. And the whole point of us being here is because we've been elected to make the decisions for the people out there. And we certainly don't ask them for their decisions on absolutely anything we say and everything we say in this chamber. So let's just get on with the fact that things are going to happen, and let's make sure, as I've said before, that the citizens of Monmouthshire and also Wales get the best out of what is going to happen.
Right, councillors, I sense we're moving towards a conclusion to this debate, but we still have two councillors who want to add something, and that is Councillor Howarth and Councillor Devi. Start with Councillor Howarth.
Chairman, some valid points coming out yet again. I think, Roger, you've made a valid point there about the reward. I can't remember seeing the word reward, but I can remember seeing it will be looked at favourably. Actually, what's favourably then? Give us ask the Minister, what is your favourably if we open discussions with Newport? What is favourably? Does that mean we will have X, Y, Z? That's what I want to know. I want to know what that information is. The door isn't closed, and never close the door on what we've got before us. Dimitri, you're quite right. There are options there, but they need to be explored. We've got 4 weeks. Impossible. You've got absolutely no chance. And the last thing I'd like to say, we've got some marvellous staff here. Very professional. We are all professional, all 43 of us. We may go off on one every now and again, but we're so passionate about what we've got before us. We're passionate about Monmouthshire, and we're passionate about the people who we represent. The people are passionate about Monmouthshire also. Let's keep the door open, never slam the door closed. There's a couple of options here. I'm sure we can work with it, and favourably, not rewarding, but favourably for Monmouthshire and the people.
Councillor Devi.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be brief, if I could stop stuttering. I've been listening to what has been a good debate, I think. The issue still, though, is, as far as I'm concerned, is we talk about services and what we're going to provide for our people. We want the best for our people. We want the best for our people. That is absolutely right. We want the best for our people. My view is we are not going to get the best for our pupil unless we devise a new form of local government. Whatever happens if we take the options that are put out to us by the Welsh Government, it is moving the deck chairs around the ship. It isn't doing anything new and innovative to bring extra wealth to the area, make the county or South East Wales or South Wales attractive to people and investors outside. And investors inside, we've got to remember, there are people in here who are capable of developing good businesses. That is what we've got to look at. You've got to do something new. And whilst this is a really difficult time, it is also a time of great opportunity. And it is a time when I would suggest that our leader should be speaking to the leaders of other councils down along this seven-side corridor and get a feeling for what they think out of it. And if, as we haven't got a business case here, and indeed we have not, it's a sort of habit with the Welsh Government, isn't it? Then we put our own submission together with a business case to them and offer them something that is different and different to the suggestions that are coming up from a group of ministers with in all fairness, in all humility, I believe have been moved around doing different jobs for a long time, and they need some change there. So let's see if we can generate some change, be the genesis of change. Out here, Monmouthshire is the genesis of change, where we do things differently here to everywhere else. Yeah, we do. We do. No, I won't. We do the things differently to every other county in Wales, and people look for change from us. It's an opportunity for us to do it, and I urge members to consider that. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, I'll call on Councillor Powell. Any other contributions, though, must be for new thoughts which haven't been expressed before. Okay, so Councillor Powell.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. As we've just been told by the Chief Executive, there is no other information coming in. As there's no other information coming in, we can't entertain any merger, because if anybody that's been in business knows, if you're going into partnership with another business or merging, you have to know their financial situation and they have to know your financial situation. As we have no information like that, the only thing that you can do is vote for 215, where you can have collaboration, where you keep your own business, they keep their own business, you work together. You never see, farmers often have corporations where they buy food together to help their businesses, but you don't see them taking over each other's farm and calling them all one big farm. So if you're in business, you do have to know exactly what the financial situation is between you. And as we do not know that, we cannot vote for any type of merger.
Right, are there any councillors with a thought which is additional to what's gone on so far? Councillor Taylor, you're saying you have one. Take the floor.
I have. You've not checked if everybody else has got a new thought, but I do have some new thoughts, and I'd quite like to share them. But what I want to say is people in Monmouthshire are not insulated from what happens in the rest of Wales, or indeed into the rest of the UK. So I'm not clear why we are making such a point of other counties, really, because what happened, the circumstances that we are in, we're not isolated. We cannot isolate ourselves, much as some people perhaps might like to. The single biggest risks that we face are poverty, lack of economic growth, and an ageing and frail population. And that is the case throughout Wales. That is the case throughout the UK. Our policy choice, these things are not, ageing is inevitable, but poverty is not inevitable. It's the consequences of policy choices. If we want to address these, we cannot address them simply by what is before us. And that is my biggest problem. We're not, I think Councillor Dovey's absolutely right. We are just simply moving the deck chairs around the ship. And whether, I appreciate what the Chief Executive says, that we have no further information at present, and that by the 28th of November we must have made a decision, we must have gone forward with if we want to move into a voluntary merger proposal. I don't understand why we can't go back and say, you are moving the deck chairs around the ship. There is not the information, because regardless of whether there is, I can't in all good conscience say I could make a decision based on the information before us. I think it's wrong, and I think it's wrong to say, oh well, okay, in the absence of the information that we have before us, we'll have to do this because the deadline is the 28th of November. Too much business is done in that way. I'm not talking about Monmouthshire, I'm talking about generally, and that is why I think we are in the situation that we're in, because we don't challenge enough. We don't say this isn't good enough. I understand the reasons why Welsh Government are putting forward these proposals, but they are not the right proposals, in my view. I think it is right that we should open dialogue, whatever that looks like, but based on proper information, proper business cases, for merger, for Gwent-wide options, for federated approaches. I haven't got a closed mind, because I don't think you can have a closed mind at the moment, because we simply don't have the information. And I think that is what we must take away, and we must make our decision today. I'd urge my colleagues to make a decision today based on where we are and not on because we don't know. It says there might be incentives if we merge. It's quite clear that the Silk Commission borrowing powers are potentially hugely constrained by the Welsh Government's M4 proposals. Where is this extra money potentially going to come with to help with the costs of merging? I'm really interested to know that. It's really unclear, and I personally really find it very unhelpful. There is no more money. It's like the note that was left, isn't it? There is no more money. So what are we going to do that's different? If we do things differently here, then let's do things differently. Let's not take a party political approach and say, oh, well, we're not getting into bed with them, we're not doing it. Let's say, actually, do you know what, Welsh Government? Let's make a reasoned response. Let's write to Welsh Government and let's say Monmouthshire Council is unable to make a final response because your proposals are not clear. We would like an opportunity to develop clear business cases, clear proposals, and then we will make a decision. And we are interested. And I don't think that people don't care about this. I mean, I don't think that they mind who delivers their services, just to be absolutely clear. And I agree that the Cardiff City region approach may bring some positive benefits. But at the moment, actually, do you know what? In terms of accountability, it's a bit like, MI5. You don't know what's going on there. It's not public. You can't go to their meetings. That I am not in favour of. So, well, whatever. Anyway, let's be clear, please, before we make a decision. That's all I'd ask my colleagues to do.
Right. Thank you, Councillor. I'm just going to, unless there's any burning hands to go up, I'm going to just make some summary of what I've heard today as the Chair. And when we started off, I've seen a lot of support for 2.1.5 about a merger proposal and a combined authority model. I've heard a lot of support for 213, which is a voluntary merger proposal. And I've heard a lot of support for we haven't got enough information and we can't make decisions on when we don't have enough information. So those are sort of three areas I felt this debate has bounced around today. Obviously, it's up to individuals to make proposals. I'm going to ask for proposals for vote. I will go to the leader for the start. Out of courtesy, he started the debate, and as many motions as we seek is necessary for the day, we will go through. But I'll start with the leader for, do you have a proposal?
Thank you, Chairman. I've been an advocate of 215 all the way through, but I do believe, listening to the debate and some of the points which are raised, I wouldn't mind just amending 215 a little, and this is how I would suggest we amend it, and then I would be moving this amendment as the way forward. To resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a combined authority model. So it's just a slight change of wording.
Chairman, may the leader just repeat what he's just said?
Yeah, can you repeat that, please, leader?
215. To resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a combined authority model.
Do I hear a seconder for that? Councillor Powell. Okay, well, that's the first proposal on the table today. So, did you all hear that? You don't want me to repeat it again? No, you're all happy? Okay, we'll go with that for a vote to start with. So all those in favour...
Chairman, may I put an amendment to that
Sorry?
proposal?
Sorry, yes, okay.
Can I just
I assume the debate had gone on. You're entitled to debate that proposal.
Oh, we're going to debate it, are we? All right. I was just going to put a word in there, at present. That's all. Just the Minister... I think it's no different to what we've got here, really. Let's put something in there just to beef it up a little bit. That we are leaving our options open because
I leave the leader to clarify.
Sorry, Chair. Whilst I was on my feet, I should have said that amendment to 215, but also accept 2.2, which is a recommendation which requires, if we don't obviously get further down this line, it very clearly says there if council determines to explore merger, or if the council is compelled by Wales Government at a future date to merge, the delegated authority is given to the leader of the council and chief executive to engage with counterparts in initial discussions about merger. So, as well as the amended 215, 2.2 hopefully gives some of the clarity, that the open doorness that just Councillor Harris was thinking of.
Right.
May I put an amendment to that one as well? Actually, I've got no issues with that, but we should put something in there making sure that this council is informed at its earliest time if discussions do take place, because there's nothing in there that could go on for some time and there's no report back to this council. I think that's important. That
Do you have a seconder for that amendment?
Yes.
Right, okay. So Councillor Howarth has proposed an amendment, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Could you repeat what you think should be said now, please, Councillor Howarth?
The leader of the council, the chief executive, report duly back to this council at its earliest convenient time on discussions if 2.2 does proceed. And that's no disrespect to the leader or the chief executive, it's making sure we are all in the loop of what is going on. Or leader, you may add that to your proposal. I don't have an issue, and I will withdraw the amendment.
Are you amending your proposal?
Chairman, absolutely. More than happy to report back to this council on any developments along the way. This is such an important thing. Clearly, I want all members to be up to speed.
Right. Could you restate what the proposal now is, please, Leader, so that we can have a debate, if necessary, or further debate before we vote?
Okay. So the amendment I made to 215 was to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a combined authority model, and then accept in 2.2 with the addition of the exact wording that I can't remember exactly how you put it, Simon, so I hope somebody jotted that down.
That appears to be two sections there, so we'll go back to the first part and get that one out of the way, and then we'll do 2.2, yeah? So we're now talking on, I assume, Councillor Powell, you second that again? Right, so we're now talking about that on 2.1.5, that particular one, as amended. Councillor Edwards.
Chair, can we have an explanation of the word combined?
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, this combined authority is a terminology which is used quite at length in England at the moment. That's where we're seeing the majority of authorities coming together. There are different versions of it slightly in England, where Manchester model is an example, where the 10 authorities in the Greater Manchester region come together and have a statutory authority over the top of the 10 authorities, which is governed from the constituent parts, but deliver key services like economic development, skills, planning, tourism, and the whole range of services. That's not to say the model I'm talking here. We talk about a combined authority model. What the Welsh model might look like. And I think that's where the depth of the conversation needs to be, because we're already so advanced on many areas of collaborative working within South East Wales and across Wales altogether, as you know, things like education at the moment. So combined authority is creating another statutory layer to deliver certain key areas, but maintaining the local identities of the constituent councils.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I go to Councillor Petroni.
I wouldn't call that clarification, Chair. That was just a garble. He doesn't know the model, he doesn't know how it's going to work, but he did admit it'll be an extra layer of bureaucracy that will oversee everything, that will basically be run from Cardiff. On that, can we have a sort of indication of the timetable, when you're going to develop your own proposals? What happens if Cardiff say no? How happens if some councils say yes and some councils say no, and so forth? Can you just have an idea?
Clearly, Chairman, I'm making a recommendation that we seek further talks around this. And clearly, you can't create this on your own. It requires a lot of talks with a lot of people. It may be that this system, this idea, doesn't have any legs. But the reality is, it is something that there are people across South East Wales who are interested in having a conversation about for the good of Wales. You know, I'm disappointed that my colleagues are so anti this option, which is absolutely building on key Labour Party principles of the city region and developing the economic future of Wales. I just cannot understand why you want to make this constant issue. It seems to me that, you know, the Labour Party just clearly don't want much to do with Monmouthshire anymore, and I can't go with that.
Right, I've got Councillor Howarth.
Chairman, would it be acceptable that we just have a 5 or 10 minute break, because I do feel that we've had a lot of information given to us here now, and I'd just like to have a thought of where we are, because I'm hearing all sorts of interesting things, but now we seem to be going a little bit more backwards.
No,
we're going forward. With 2 hours.
No, Councillor, we're actually into debating an amendment to a proposal now, and we will go to the vote on that proposal. Councillor Petrini,
Chairman, which is in the rule book. A slur was put on the Labour group from Councillor Fox, so that we don't care about the residents of Monmouthshire. We actually do care about the residents of Monmouthshire. That's why we think we should believe in a merger and about actually giving the best service for them, not just protecting our own seats, Chair.
Right, I don't want any slurs in this chamber, and so I want this to be in the interests of the community, and I think
there
we'll
was
proceed.
no slur. I'm reflecting on the debate, which has very clearly put that the Labour Party are not in favour of what we're talking about here. They want to merge with the other authorities, the Labour-run authorities in South East Wales, and from my mind, that neglects Monmouthshire.
Right, I want to move away from this S&M bit here. Now, we're talking about a particular motion. I've got Councillor Guppy. Point of order from Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's been enough talk about the potential abolition of Monmouthshire, and I propose we move to the vote.
No, that's not the point of order there. Yeah, I'm actually... Right, so it's not a point of order. You're proposing we move to the vote. In this instance... Yeah, I think I'd like to see a bit more debate on this particular one first, Councillor, because it is a proposal on the table. I've got Councillor Guppy, then Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. My question is that we might, as an authority, understand what we mean by a confined model, a combined model. But if we put that as a word, I would be very concerned about what that means to the Welsh Assembly. Although I support that we need to do things different and we need to protect Monmouthshire, I think we need to iron out exactly what we mean combined, just in case it gets misinterpreted. That means that it could be it's a merger with just one or two authorities, and I think that word combined in this motion needs further clarification because it can be misinterpreted.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Now, if we immediately go to a vote on the amended 215, it's glaringly obvious what the outcome of that vote is going to be, and therefore any further debate on the other options that we have in front of us will be killed stone dead. So if we're moving amendments, I'd like to move an amendment that we adopt option 213.
I'm sorry, I can't receive that amendment, Councillor, because with an amendment you adjust the wording slightly of a proposal. We're actually debating a proposal at the moment, and I've got Councillor Taylor next.
I think it's slightly disappointing that we've just moved to just talking about the combined authorities proposal, because I really think that we should be looking at the best option, and we don't, in all honesty, know what that is. Now, the leader has acknowledged that there's You know, he doesn't know if that has legs. So why do we want to constrain ourselves to that? Now, I'm not saying that we will eventually end up where Welsh Government wants us to be, but I really think it's important that we don't close down those options at this stage of the game. And I think that we really ought to be writing to Welsh Government and expressing this point of view very strongly, so that we are doing things differently. We're not doing what other authorities have said we're refusing to merge, we're refusing to do what we simply think you are not giving us enough clarity, and we request either the time to gain that clarity or that you help us with it. Maybe we could develop an exemplar approach. Wouldn't that be something if we want to be different? So I don't think I can amend this really easily to mean that we keep all our options open. So instead of, Councillor Fox has put to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around a combined authority proposal. I think that's about right. To resist, someone help me, to resist closing down our options at present and seek clarification or further talks around either a combined authority proposal or a merger with one or other authorities.
No, I think the nature of the proposal on the table is quite clear. And I think we've had a long debate this afternoon, and views have been expressed on all sides. They really have. And I know there are parties here who might not agree with everything, and we're going to vote for and against. And I think the public has seen the expressions that we've had in the chamber today, which is good for democracy. But we do have a proposal on the table, and I've now got Councillor Dovey who wants to contribute to this motion.
Just very briefly, Chairman. It says to resist the merger proposal and advocate the development of a combined authority model. If you just put new in there instead of combined, then you are opening the thing up completely. So you're not constraining it in any way.
I've got Councillor Williams next. So were you proposing an amendment then, Councillor?
I should have been up for this, shouldn't I, by now? Yes, that is my amendment.
You're proposing an amendment?
Proposing
to
an
put
amendment.
the word new instead of combined?
New in instead of combined.
Right.
Which would leave the whole thing, the premise will be completely open there.
Right. Do you have a seconder for that proposal? I got Simon Howarth is a seconder for your amendment. Okay, councillors. We're now debating the amendment. And the amendment says to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a new authority model. Are you quite clear?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy, listening to the debate, I'm happy to amend that amendment. No, if it's taken on board some of the things which have been said to help the debate along, the concern about the terminology of combined, I've slightly amended this, if you were willing to accept this as an amendment to my amendment.
Okay, for ease of debate today, I will assume this is now the proposal that it's got the word new instead of combined. Okay?
No, it won't. It's not got the word new. This is a separate. This is slightly different wording again.
No, so you have to wait for the exposure of this amendment. We have to vote on this amendment before we can go to a second amendment. You cannot amend an amendment. I'm sorry. So we now have a proposal where the word combined is replaced by the word new. And Councillor Howarth has seconded that amendment. And now we will debate the amendment. And I've got Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure that I'm debating the amendment, but I'm concerned as to where we are in this process. We've had 3 recommendations put forward. We are where we are on looking at this amendment. But to look at the legislation that's going to be put before us, the Reforming Local Government White Paper sets out the Welsh Government's intention to introduce a bill into the National Assembly for Wales in January 2015, We propose this bill will both pave the way for their full merger programme of local authorities in Wales and enable the Welsh ministers to make orders to provide for any local authorities wishing to take advantage of the option to merge. That is the Welsh Government's intention. We seem to be debating and putting forward a motion with an amendment to override what the Welsh Government's intention is in January 2015.
Crazy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, dear. I don't know whether I'm talking on the amendment, the amended amendment, or the original motion, to be honest with you, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm really concerned that we are going to end up as a council and a bunch of councillors with egg on our face here. Because if we are looking at this this little plan that Peter's got through the WLGA, which is to produce this regional thing with the councils underneath it still sitting as they are. I think it started off as 10 councils. Well, Blaenau Gwent and Torfaen have already agreed that they're not going to do that. They're going to go off and look to merge with themselves. I'm sorry,
Sorry, there was somebody standing in the chamber and I wanted them to sit down to stop interrupting you, Councillor. Carry on.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. When you look at this is this WLGA thing, I assume, Peter. Hello, Pete? Pete? Can you hear me, Pete? Yeah. No, I was talking to you. Because while I talk
Please address the Chair, Councillor.
Chair, perhaps you can clarify to me that this is the WLGA plan. Can you do that before I continue?
I can clarify that, Chairman. This isn't the WLJ plan. You'll know that the WLJ plan assumes 4 combined authorities across the whole of Wales. I have not mentioned that once at all. I've talked about a combined authority which would be aligned with the South East Wales region. That's 10 authorities. It may become 8 authorities or 6 authorities. I'm talking about the South East Wales region, which is not the WLGA a proposal which talked of combined authorities across the whole of Wales. Right. I've not said that. I've never mentioned the WLGA today in that regard.
Right, thank you, Chair. So what we've got then is basically Councillor Fox's plan rather than the WLGA plan, which is fine. Looking at it in its entirety, it started off as 10, it's down to 7 now probably because Newport want to stand alone, no surprise there. So what happens when we get down to Monmouthshire? Will we be the single partner in this? I mean, I'm totally confused as to why we are trying to debate something that isn't on the table as such from Welsh Government, whichever way it is, and we're going to go by the 28th of November. It's going to be like opening an advent calendar. Every day you open it and look for a little smiley face or a piece of chocolate to continue to go to the next day. And I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to waste our time going up a blind alley and after 28 days be left with something that we're thinking, well, what was the point of that? We've now missed the deadline to actually take part in anything, so we're going to get landed with something maybe we don't want and nobody in Monmouthshire wants.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, what is happening in this debate now is I think there is, particularly on this amendment, closed thinking. Councillor Taylor has quite clearly been articulating, as have other members, about the option of open thinking, collaboration, thinking on your feet, being agile, responsive, etc. Councillor Fox's motion, and the amendment, actually defines and keeps that position, which is exactly in line with Monmouthshire's position, and keeps our options open, and it's in the best interests of our citizens in the county. To roll over and accept a one-size-fits-all approach is a road to disaster. We know that. We know the issues that are coming towards us, and it will fail. And that's not in anybody's interests.
Right, have we got any other contributions to this amendment? Councillor Haworth.
I think we're getting there, we are getting there, and I think we're quite right, is do not close the door on anything here, and I think that's so important, because at the end of the day, if the Minister believes that we are getting there, and the options are getting there, there's deals to be done, because at the end of the day, it's about what the best deal for Monmouthshire out of this is, and I'll give you an example. Newport have slung the door open, it's off its hinges, they're having none of this. Actually, Monmouthshire have been professional in the way they handle this matter, and it is. We're being really professional, but we need to get even a little bit more professional. So, we may have to strike a deal, but it'll be in the interests of Monmouthshire people. So, I'll give you an example, 160 million budget. Perhaps if we say to the Minister, look, out of our budgets, if we do combine, we want 180 million or we want 200 million, and we're willing to talk to Newport if they won't talk to us. These kind of deals are to be had. Do not shut the door. And I believe as a leading group, which the Conservatives are, and the Labour group, we need to talk about this and we need to get it right. But do not shut the door today on it all.
Right, councillors, any more to be said on this amendment? If not, I'll put it to the vote. I will now go to the vote on the amendment of 2.1.5 as changed by the leader and then amended by Councillor Devi. And as far as I'm aware, and please put me right if I got this wrong, it's to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a new authority model. New, they changed the word, they took the word combined out. That is Councillor Devi's amendment. Okay? Yes. Are you happy with that?
Chairman, do you want to read 2.2 as well to them?
I will also read...
On a point of order, Chair. No, I'm sorry this inconvenienced you, but there was a bit of shenanigans going on, an exchange of, and now it seems to me that he's saying something different. I don't recall that being the case.
No, Councillor, I'm reflecting what I heard through the chair. To provide some clarity, I'll also read out 2.2, which is about to follow, just so you know. If Council determines to explore merger, or if Council is compelled by Wales Government at a future date to merge, that delegated authority is given to the Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive to engage with counterparts in initial discussions about merger. So that is still there to be agreed once we follow through this particular motion. So I'm now going to 2.1.5. I'll repeat it one more time so we're all clear, and I want confirmation from the officers that is what was said, and that is to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around development of a new authority model. Is that correct? Yeah. Right. Then I will take us to the vote.
Just a matter of clarity, the word new. That's nothing, doesn't mean merger, doesn't mean combined, it could mean a new authority.
I think what that is saying, Councillor, is leaving the door open for all sorts of discussions to take place. A new model. So what can people come up with?
It could mean a new Gwent County Council.
Order, please. Councillor Devi.
Chairman, I thought in my little simple brain that what I'd said was simple and we'd get round it. It obviously isn't simple, so I'll withdraw the amendment.
Right, councillors, we now go back to the original proposal, which has the word combined in there. Okay? So, the proposal as was...
Mr. Chairman, as you remember, I amended 2.1.5. I thank Councillor Dovey for his contribution in that regard. However, I will withdraw my amendment to that original 2.1.5, but propose another amendment to 2.1.5. Okay? It's pretty straightforward. Are you with me, Chairman?
Councillors, at the moment, I've heard various suggestions about having a break to clarify the air, to get a remit correct. I suggest a 5-minute recess now, and when we come back, there will be a proposal from the leader about what we want to vote on to go forward. A 5-minute recess, thank you. Right, could I ask people to take their seats, please, so we can reconvene? Thank you. Right, councillors, the 5 minutes has expired, so I'm now going to reconvene the meeting. Make a comment on the first part of proceedings. I think we've had a very lively debate, and I think a lot of opinions have been expressed, which needed to be expressed, and I think that's good for democracy in Monmouthshire. Now I'm going to apply the rules rigidly. We've been a bit lax in the first half to enable a good, honest debate, and there's been a bit of fervour and a bit of temperament. I understand that. But now we're going to go according to the book precisely, and I'm going to allow the leader to put forward a proposal which I believe he hopes will encompass a lot of the comments that have been made previously, and so that your comments have contributed to that debate and are embedded in this motion. So could I ask the leader to present his proposal, please?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. As the Chairman alluded, I've taken on board many of the views which were said today, and I hope that my amendment to 215 is acceptable, together with the amended 22, which I believe officers have already recorded that which was going to come forward. So the amendment and proposal I'm putting forward in 215 is this. At this time, to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a model that sees authorities working together but maintaining local democracy and local accountability.
Thank you, Leader. Do I hear a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Powell. We're now debating that motion. I think it might be useful if you say it again, Leader, because it is hot and we haven't got it written down, so just people can just get it in their heads. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It is, at this time, to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a model that sees authorities working together but maintaining local democracy and local accountability.
Okay, we're now debating that motion, councillors. Who would like to make a comment on that motion? Councillor Hobson.
Very quickly, Chairman, I think that encapsulates everything I'll be satisfied to see. It says it at this time, which I think is important. It also says leaves the door open. That's been mentioned by a lot of people. It keeps our options open, and it's all about about being agile, flexible, and being responsive, and also at the same time in the best interests of our citizens.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I can support that proposal wholeheartedly, Chairman. It says what I want to say. Thank you.
Councillor Haworth.
Thank you, Chairman, and we are getting there. The only thing I would say is I would have loved to see the word resist removed. If you could do something on that. Thank you.
Councillor Petruni.
Yes, resist implies bias, Chair.
Any other comments? Councillor Greenland.
Chairman, I wouldn't remove the word resist, because what it's saying is that at this time we favour looking at a model which works with other authorities and provides local democracy and accountability. And that is our position as we believe it at the moment. The word "at this time" allows us to look at mergers if necessary later on.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, Chair, very simply, can we replace the word resist with delay?
Any other councillors? Councillor no, you've spoken once, Councillor Hobson. I have to ask all other councillors. Councillor Guppy.
The word resist means a strong negotiating position, and I think that we should keep resist in.
Chair, I think...
Councillor Watts.
Thank you. I think it is, you know, I mean, you know, we can get the dictionary out, but I think, you know, resist means resist.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Any other contributions? If not, I will take it to the vote. Okay, we're now voting on the proposal. If you read it out one last time, and then we will vote. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Chairman, and just be mindful that the 2.2 is amended as agreed earlier. So 2.15. At this time, to resist a merger proposal and seek further talks around the development of a model that sees authorities working together but maintaining local democracy and local accountability.
Thank you. All those in favour, please signify. And those against? And those abstaining? Okay, councillors, that's clearly carried, so that's where the position of this council. We now, I invite a proposal on 2.2. 2.2.
Chairman, yes, I moved 2.2 as amended earlier. The terminology I think Mr. Tranter has written down, which you may wish to...
Yes, could you read it out, please, Mr. Tranter?
Yeah, certainly, Chairman. 2.2 now reads then, if Council determines to explore merger or if Council is compelled by Wales Government at a future date to merge, that delegated authority is given to the Leader of the Council and Chief Executive to engage with counterparts in initial discussions about merger, and then this bit is added, and then report back to Council with the result of those discussions at the earliest opportunity.
Right, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Murphy. We're now debating that proposal. Who would like to have? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like just to clarify, because there's quite a long time in between council meetings, isn't there? This is an extremely important matter. How will we receive updates and proposals in the meantime? Because I don't disagree that we don't have to allow the Chief Executive and the Leader to speak to people, but that needs to be informed and guided by the whole of this council, and there needs to be some kind of mechanism for other councillors to understand what's going on. And I would welcome the Chief Executives and the Leader, Chair, if that's possible, to advise us of, you know, how that might happen.
Okay, the Chief Executive would like to advise on that comment.
A little bit on the hoof, but we have some mechanisms I think that could work quite well. We have the political leaders group meeting, which we can call quite quickly and give political leaders the ability to cascade directly into their groups. On an issue of this nature, I'm content to visit your groups. As per usual, the rule would be if I go to one, I'll go to them all, and I'll probably travel accompanied rather than on my own, because you're devious people sometimes. But we can certainly use that as a mechanism. I think it's also fair, though, because timeliness is a big issue, that I would expect you to be happy for me to write to you all directly. Because what this needs to be, I guess, you know, as and when it sort of becomes real, is a conversation rather than a set-piece briefing session. So if you're content to allow me to use a combination of the political leaders group meeting, your groups, if you want that, but also just using the plain old-fashioned written word to ensure that all 43 members have access to information as and when it becomes available, then I'll commit to do that.
Thank you for that clarification. I've now got Councillor Eason.
Thank you, Chair. I think you might have answered my question, but I was going to suggest an amendment that the opposition leaders be included in your discussions, but I think you might have covered that topic. Okay.
The political leaders group encompasses the leaders of the 4 groups in the council.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Through yourself, obviously. Do due to the 28th of November being a date whereby we have to speak to Welsh Government on whether we sort of voluntarily merge with anybody, and the fact that we probably want to be discussing something at least 2 weeks before that, do we have a completion date for discussions about the new, in inverted commas, model, or are we just going to driddle on until the 28th when we might get stuck with something we don't want?
Chief Executive.
I think, Councillor Williams, we don't even have a starting date for conversations yet, let alone a completion date. Unless you tell me very clearly and very loudly, I think based on the conversation that I've heard this afternoon, the likelihood of us positioning ourselves as a partner in a voluntary merger by the 28th of November, I would suggest is highly unlikely. I haven't heard as your head of paid service a clear mandate to effectively say to me, stop what you're doing for the next 2 to 3 weeks, go broker a deal. It hasn't felt that way to me. So the 28th of November, let's be clear, it is a deadline set by Minister of Public Services, Leighton Andrews. Does this have to be a staccato process? I wouldn't have thought so. I would hope that any reasonably minded person would be open to listen to a good idea, a well-developed process at any point in time, but I think it highly unlikely that I'm going to be recommending, or the leader would be in a position to recommend a voluntary merger approach by the 28th, because it's not just signing on a piece of paper. There is work to be done, and I think I tried to outline that in the body of the report. You have to be clear on what the vision of a new organisation would be, why you would be confident that that new organisation would be more robust, more resilient, more effective than perhaps the organisations that make it up. And that feels to me to be more than a drafting exercise. That's about real work and real commitment. And you seem to be suggesting to me with your language, such as at this point in time, I'm not sure that we're there for. Well, I haven't heard you telling me as a chamber that you're there for that just yet.
Can I just reinforce exactly what you said? They're my thoughts exactly. Obviously, it would have taken a long time, and I use the phrase 2 weeks very glibly, because my concern is, at the end of all this, we will get dumped with something that we don't really want. And my point is, how long are we going to go on with discussions on a new model before we decide that it's going to fail? It cannot be open-ended.
Okay, once more, Chief.
I guess I would suggest that judgment is correctly a political judgment. If you're happy for me to use the mechanisms that I set out in response to the earlier question, i.e. the political leaders group, and clearly, the leader of the partnership administration will have a significant say into that. I'll be guided by that judgment, but I guess you'll want to touch base on this probably at every full council over the course of the next sort of 3 or 4 months. So there's no reason to leave any of you behind or out of these conversations. But I'm just going to echo what I said a few moments ago, because having clarity in the chamber is really important. If you have an expectation at this point in time of submitting a proposal to be a part of a voluntary merger by the 28th of November, that isn't what I've heard. So if a lot of you feel differently, now is a good time to say. But I don't think you do, just reading the body language of the chamber.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor Howarth.
Chairman, may I just ask then, on the 13th of November, can we just have an agenda item update on what we've discussed today? I know we probably have to agree the minutes from today in that meeting also, but I would like every opportunity that we have as a council when we're together that we have updates. There may have been meetings already taking place, I'm not too sure, but let's have an update. And secondly, can we make sure that actually the Minister is well aware, if she's not watching us today or listening to us on YouTube or whatever, she's well aware, or he. Sorry. I'm sure Leighton will be. Sometimes he may be called that. Chairman, can we make sure that the Minister is well aware of where we are, and then the door isn't slammed in our face or whatever, and we have regular updates through council meetings?
Thank you for that comment, Councillor. I've got Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, whilst we're going down that line, as Councillor Howard has just mentioned, I did stand up and make an erroneous amendment, i.e. as soon as we debated the amended 215, the debate is immediately over, as I said. So we had no chance whatsoever to talk about the other four. What I'd like it to be made plain in the minutes is that the Labour group was strongly in favour of 213, and I feel that obviously we're in the minority here, but I'd just like it made plain in case the minister is listening or reads the minutes that we were strongly in favour of 213. Thank you,
Right,
Chair.
thanks, Councillor. Now, we are debating the 2.2 with the added phrase on the end that we talked about earlier on. Are there any other contributions on that one? Councillor Petroni.
Yes, Chairman. 2.2, the first glance, completely support 2.2 and with the amendment. What greatly, for clarity actually, shall I start with clarity first? Considering the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats have just made up a new model and we don't know what that model is and it could be anything at all with the independent support, are we getting an update of what that model will even look like, who is even talking to who, what even at all the framework is of that? Are we going to get an update as in the PLG? Is council going to get an update, or is it just make up on the hoof?
Councillor, I think the Chief Executive has quite clearly clarified that point, that he would take any moves forward to the leaders to report, and I see no problem there. So,
Chairman, can I just be clear there? I'm sure independents were mentioned there. Independents represent the views of all the constituents of Monmouthshire, and we will go down what is the best deal and what is the best for Monmouthshire. Sorry, Dimitri, but you did mention us. Thank you.
Chair, I didn't say you weren't. I just said you supported the Conservative Lib Dems on that motion.
okay, any other contributions on this? I think you've already spoken once, Councillor Taylor. I've got to give others an opportunity. Pardon? You want to explain clarity? Okay, go on then, quickly, please.
Just as a point of personal explanation, Chair, referred to by Councillor Petruni, I think that what I did and what the independents have done is to be very clear that we want an open discussion about what the right way forward is for Monmouthshire, as opposed to supporting any particular political imperative. No, haven't, Dimitri. I've certainly spoken about what I think is in the best interests of residents.
Okay,
Councillor,
I think you've made
clear and noted.
You've made your point. You've made your point there. Now we are debating this 2.2 with the addition on the end, and I don't want to start going into the semantics of all the other debate we've had today. So, any other contributions on that particular motion? If not, I will take us to the vote on that, okay? So we'll read it out. If I could ask Mr. Tranter to read it out in its entirety, and then we will vote.
Certainly, Chairman. So 2.2 now reads, if Council determines to explore merger, or if Council is compelled by Wales Government at a future date to merge, that delegated authority is given to the Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive to engage with counterparts in initial discussions about merger, and then report back to Council with the result of those discussions at the earliest opportunity.
Thank you. So we now vote on that proposal. All those in favour, please. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Well, I'd like to thank all councillors for their contribution today. I know it's a heated debate from time to time with limited information available and timescales, etc. I think we have aired our views and come to a sensible conclusion, and we've been given assurances by the Chief Executive that he will give regular updates via the various group leaders and to Council as things develop. Thank you for today, and I hereby close the meeting.